Hello and welcome to the Off the Tools podcast with me, Andy Jones, and
Mr. Wayne Bettess. How are we doing, gentlemen? How are we doing?
WB in the house.
Yeah, and he's got his guns out as well. He must be feeling summer. You know, he's been pumping the iron, getting them fucking muscles out.
So it's not that all it is this ancient childhood tattoo, let's call it, from the tribal tattoo popularity days. I've just started having laser on it, so it's all swelled and sore and sticky.
Funny you mentioned that, right? Because that really plays into what we're talking about today a little bit. So I'm going to show you my childhood tattoo.
Flexing.
You see the English bulldog there with the England flag. So you can tell the arenas that Andy was knocking about in his late teens and the area that I was knocking about into. Your tattoos are a giveaway, aren't they?
The technology, the quality of just the work, the artwork, and the quality of the ink and the options of the ink is just so much further ahead, like in the last 10 years than it was 20 years ago.
You were definitely like a boy racery sort of guy, though, wouldn't you? Whereas I was like a football hooligan guy. So, you know, I was in at Luton Town, you know, watching the football, whereas you was in the car parks of the spinning the wheels. I'm presuming.
Yeah, I skipped a bit of a step. Yeah, I was handbrake turning cars at 15 instead of getting fighting at 15. But anyway, back on track. This is I'm excited about this one because me and Wayne have been harping on about this for a long time, and I've been talking about this for as long as I can remember to people so a lot of my family, sort of my more distant family, so cousins and things like that. A little quick story on this as well, so I'll introduce it and then I'll get back to that. So basically, obviously Burnham's in now. He wants to shake things up and he wants to try and get to a point where apprenticeships are viewed as equal status as something like a degree. Me and Wayne have said many times it's actually worth more. It's been worth more for quite a while because there's been this weird mindset of like, because from an education perspective, certain elements of a degree or getting certain careers that you need a degree for are worth more because they're more challenging from an education perspective. Let's say something like a solicitor. However, obviously this is a business podcast, and what we're always talking about is business related supply and demand. So admittedly, it actually takes longer to do a full apprenticeship than it does to do a 3-year stint at university. So there's, you know, in some ways there's more of a time input, but not everybody can do that sort of thing. Not everybody can be a shit hot tradesman. So what's basically the position it's in now is the guys with you know, tradesmen are able to go out and earn more money than someone like a solicitor.
On that note, quickly, Andy, I think we're going to be fighting for the mic here today because we've both got such strong opinions on it. But I just need to get this out of my brain because it's very valid to what you've just said there. And I want to give kudos to my son. So my son's 19, qualified last week as a fully qualified gas engineer. Okay, so put that into context. He's now 19, right? He could go and get a job. Well, he's got a job, but he could go and get a job on 30 to 40 grand a year at 19 years old, with the potential that in 2 or 3 years' time, he could go out on his own and be earning 100, 150 pound an hour, all whilst many of his friends are stacking up 20, 30, 40, 50 grand's worth of debt at university. They're going to still be there till they're 21. So not only has Lewis now got a 2-year head start on them for building up his base, you know, building up money, building up, probably be able to buy a house in a year's time, year and a half's time, something like that. You know, we banged our head against the wall, haven't we, for years, saying that this industry, or the trades industry, was demonized for so long that there's a whole generations of people that just look down on it, when in reality it gives people a flexible lifestyle. It gives them cash in their pocket, not physical cash, but you know what I mean, money in the pocket. And in today's society, a flexible job is far more attractive. Who really wants to be getting on the train at 6 in the morning and driving to train to London to become a lawyer and earn 120, 150 grand a year? Yeah, great salary. Fucking hell, of course it is. But wouldn't you rather earn 80 and have Fridays and Mondays off, finish at 4, you had to go fucking leave the house at 9 o'clock, get back at 3 o'clock, you know, on a hot day so you can enjoy it. You know, you can't do that as a corporate solicitor or lawyer or vet or doctor or whatever it is. Obviously, no, we need these people. I'm not saying, I'm not demoralizing that, but there's far better ways to skin a cat, isn't there?
Yeah. So obviously I have a good and unique perspective on this because I followed the typical path that was always pushed. So I did school, college, and I actually went to university for a period of time because I was decent at maths and some other things. So it was like, oh yeah, go and do this. I actually ended up going to university to do accounting and finance, which didn't take me very long to realize I fucking hated. And fortunately for me, I was still living at home at the time, and I was able to financially sustain going back to college, and then obviously starting my training to originally be a plumber. So I've witnessed it firsthand, this drive to, oh no, you don't want an apprenticeship, go to college. Oh no, you don't want to do this, go to university. This push, where, you know, if you don't go and get a degree, then what are you actually going to do with your life kind of attitude. And just to double back to what I was saying before about the family thing. So both my mum's and my dad's families are very large families. On my mum's side, I'm the only one of the cousins that did not go to and complete university, the only one. And let's say, you know, none of them are millionaires, let's say. Obviously, I'm not saying I am, but they have got the strange you've just spoke about without any flexibility. Like you've just said, what would you rather do? Earn 100 grand a year in a corporate job, or earn 100 grand a year as a tradesman and produce flexibility, or 80 grand a year even? Like you can't put a price on that flexibility. You know, it's like, so obviously I'm up in Wigan, small town. Let's say you was on, you know, 50 grand a year in Wigan, or you can go and work in London, like you said, and do 80 grand a year. What is that extra hours and hours and hours added onto your day worth? Like,
no brainer.
I'm
in a pickle here, right? So anyone that knows me will know that I come from a, let's say, conservative, right-leaning place, really. You know, like the town I'm in is, you know, we're next to Luton. So Luton is a very left-wing Labour sort of focus. Then you've got like Dunstable, which is more conservative. It's always had a Conservative MP my whole life. And until this time, we've actually got a Labour one. So I don't, and naturally I lean right on politics. You know, that's just what was actually. I am changing, and it sort of pains me to say that I like what Andy's doing so far. Not just with this, I like the shift of power that he's moving up to the north. I think that will help the north massively. I think he's quite charismatic, you know, although I don't agree with everything. And I think, obviously, like with all politicians, you know, having a good speech, being good on camera, that's the easy bit. It's doing the fucking action, isn't it, that matters. But I can only judge him on what he's done, you know, in this new role that he's got. And so far, he's saying the right things. And for me, you know, I always look at it quite selfishly. Well, how does it impact me? Moving power up to North number 10 doesn't affect me, you know, don't really care. But this one, you know, looking at introducing a more focus on the trades, that impacts me, you know, impacts me, my family, and I'm excited for it because we've always said that the opportunity is just absolutely ginormous. It's going to be interesting to see how, you know, I can only see it working is if he funds it. You know, I can't see how he can encourage me to take on an apprentice, for example, if there's no funding in place. If it's going to still cost me money, it's all well and good saying this shit on camera, isn't it? But how are you going to do it? So I don't know. If you look, has he released any detail, or was it just like a clickbait video just to get some attention and get people like us talking about it?
So I've just made a note here of some, obviously, the points that he's done. So he's trying to get him for obviously more employer involvement, which is what you've just said, along with schools being linked closer with local businesses, because the plan is to offer this vocational technical education to start at around 14, which absolutely, yeah, should be. And
so funnily enough, I actually got to experience this. So at 14, I was shipped at school. Anyone that knows my story will know. And I was put on a 12-week construction course in year 10. It was. So I'd have been 14 stroke 15. And so I did that for 12 weeks. I worked in a factory, you know, doing electronic stuff for a few months as well. And it worked an absolute treat for me. But then for some reason, it sort of died out. So I just thought I'd throw that out. But I first-hand experience of getting out of the traditional school system and doing a hands-on, you know, course at a young age. So
yeah. I think 14. There was a bit of talk about people saying, "Oh, is 14 too young?" Not a fucking chance.
No, you know, by the time you're 13, 14, the teachers know what kids are going to be educational based, and
yeah,
you know,
absolutely,
it's not hard to spot, is it?
To put something slightly different in, another thing we've done, we've touched on things like this in the past, but remember me saying the standardized education system is not built for lads, not built for boys.
Yes, yeah, because, I remember you saying,
yeah, it's a proven thing, it's a genetic thing. Jordan Peterson talks about it a lot. It isn't like, you know, random that girls statistically score better in school environments. Lads are not built for sitting as still. You know, anyone who's got young lads, I've got 2 7-year-olds. Wayne's got 2 lads. They do not want to sit still. Like, girls can sit better. I've got 2 nieces as well. They're a bit older now.
My daughters can sit and like colour in at a table for 2 hours, do a puzzle for hours. You know, so I can't get my boys to sit down and eat dinner. You know,
the curriculum at all boys' schools is different than it is at all girls' schools. Just as all girls' schools curriculums is much closer to mainstream school. In all lads' schools, there's far more breaks for activity stuff, far more sports and things like that. They just don't have the same capacity because we're wired differently, aren't we? We're wired for hunter-gathering shit. Anyway, to get back on track, random little point there. So one thing I will say, this is more of a personal thing from the notes. I know you're saying you like where he's going. I actually think, it's obvious to say out loud, is that it's not just born from, you know, addressing the problems with it. I think it's also factoring in where the world currently is. So obviously with all the push with AI, there's a lot of jobs being replaced with AI outside of, obviously, and to maybe explain that a little bit better, hands-on trades are going to be the hardest, if ever, replaced. Therefore, the value of them is now increasing. So, you know, obviously me and Wayne do a lot of software building for people, and a lot of that software has AI incorporated into it for automations and things for customers. So there's things like, even simple things, let's say like designing a logo. The digital graphic design industry just had a grenade thrown in a couple of years ago when AI came out, because, you know, I was sat yesterday building new logos for some of the lads. It's taken me no time at all, at no cost at all. So those kind of jobs are becoming less valuable, but AI is not going to replace the hands-on side of the trades. Yes, it can replace some admin work. We've just touched on that, but it's not going to fit a boiler, a heat pump. It's not going to fix a boiler. It's not going to rewire a house. It's not going to go and fit some aircon units. It's not going to fit sockets, so on and so forth. So the value of the trades is becoming more and more valuable now, because they're generally now regarded as one of, if not the safest industry to be in, from the hot topic of the minute, which is AI.
Yeah. And the last podcast that we, no, it had been 2 episodes ago when you're listening to this, actually, but we spoke about AI, didn't we? And to be fair, excuse me, yeah, I didn't really factor in that into what Andy Burnham mentioned, but yeah, man, that's got to be playing a huge reason as to why he's doing that, isn't it? You know, because he's seeing 3 years down the line, these guys and girls that are at university now, and they're going to come out as software developers and fucking
end up unemployed.
Like digital art creation, whatever you call that, you know, like logo graphic designers. He's probably looking and thinking, wow, these guys, lawyers, you know, even to a point, doctors, right? And I'll circle back to that in a minute. But let's focus on like the more simplistic, not simplistic, but the more where I can see obvious, the direct ease of AI. You know, there's going to be thousands of people with 50, 100 grams worth of debt and no job to go to, isn't there? You know, and yeah, I guess as a leader of a country, you've got to be forward thinking, haven't you? You've got to be looking down that conveyor belt and seeing where are these people going to end up. And I also think it's going to massively impact the going off subject a little bit here, but just quickly, the doctors industry, because anyone that's had a doctor's appointment, you know, knows how much time and effort, you know, they don't get to put in because they're so busy. You know, they're squeezed. You know, and as AI starts to envelop the medical industry, you're going to be able to have less doctors but serve more people better, I believe. You know, with wearables, with you know, blood testing and stuff that used to take weeks and weeks, you know, to get results, and now you know things can be analysed and data sent, and you know everything can be collaborated. You know, what would have took a doctor, you know, 2 hours might take them 10 minutes, you know. So by definition, once these systems get ironed out, one doctor is going to be able to serve, say, 300 patients more, and the patients are going to get a better service. So I do think medical industry needs to be aware that, you know, they're not safe either. You know,
just a quick point on that. So one of my twins, obviously has type 1 diabetes.
Yeah,
he has a diabetes specialist nurse who can access his blood glucose levels remotely.
There you go. So it's already there, isn't it? Then so they're already. Whereas what that would have took back in the day, so 5 years ago, that would have took a standard nurse. They probably wouldn't have sent out the qualified one. They would have sent a normal nurse to go take a blood sample, bring it back, you know, analyze it. You know, hours of manual work, wouldn't it?
And graft data now as well, because it takes a reading every 15 minutes.
Yeah. So she can sit there
adjust
and
his insulin. She can remotely adjust his insulin delivery and adjust how much he has it. You know what I mean? Tweak it. Yeah. So sorry, I interrupted you there, man.
No. That just compounds the thing, and then you put that into like, oh my gosh, like the amount of times people will have gone to a solicitor, right? To just from our industry, let's just look at it from our industry, right? Customer don't pay you. You'd go to a debt recovery company, or you'd go to a solicitor to get your terms and conditions drawn up and lawyer letters if they're not paying. Who's doing that now? Yes, so I know they're not huge tens of thousands of pounds bills, but these are 150, 250 quid an hour tasks that are just not being done now. Surely these were like the bread and butter. These were like the boiler servicing of the lawyer world, you know, like these basic easy tasks that are now gone, you know, and you wait till it gets more technical. And yeah, mate, it's and this is what makes me so excited that I still have a trades business, you know, and now even more excited now my son's qualified, because I'm like, wow, what a 20 years, what a next couple of decades this could be, you know, because we've got an established business, the reputation, the systems in place, and now we're going to be influxed with a workforce hungry to work, because for the last 10, 15 years, there hasn't been a hungry workforce trying to get into us, has there? You know, whereas now I think you're going to see a lot of older, hungrier people that need to make this work enter the industry, as well as the youngsters that are now going to be like, well, do you know what? I'm not at school. I got out of that shithole that I hate, you know, in that cage, being freaking told what to do by some woman or man that don't know what the real world's like. they're going to be out with some geezer or whatever in a van, you know, picking up lunch from the Tesco's and just, you know, just thriving in that environment of being, you know, a grown up. And mate, you can probably tell.
I'll tell you what I always find wild. So
I might get me freaking tools back out and go and buy a van, to be honest, because I want to go and fix some stuff.
Tell you what I find wild. This isn't a attack on teachers. Lots of my friends are teachers. Lots of my family are teachers. But I'm not brilliant at putting it politely, so I'll just say it how it is and take it how you want. There's very few.
Don't worry, I'll make it polite after he said it.
There's very few tradesmen, especially let's say gas engineers and electricians, that are earning less than a secondary school teacher.
Yeah.
So so these teachers that are telling you, oh, you don't want an apprenticeship, you want to go to university and do this and get yourself, like, are you the right person to be giving them that advice? Just a random side note.
Yeah, no, but, and we don't mean that derogatory at all, do we? We're just pointing out that, you know, what I guess it's because we're there's a whole generation post-war that just wanted security, safety, security, you know, stability. Sorry, stability is probably the word, isn't it? Whereas the modern world, we sort of don't crave that anymore. Does that make sense? I think because we've lived in such a long peacetime, relative. I know there's wars going on. I understand, but they're not on our doorstep, are they, guys? Come on. No. So we're not like experiencing it like our grandparents would have experienced rationing and you know, and the volatility of like the stock exchange markets and the pricing, and you know, like they would have hands-on experience. We've had COVID, but really, you know, did any of us not have food on the table? If anything, we all had more food on the table and more money. We went through the financial crisis in 2008. Apart from obviously some people lost money, you know, I get that, but did we not feed our family? Did we not have hospitals? Did we not, you know, we didn't really, in relative terms of history, they're little fucking tiny little blips, aren't they? You know, world wars are spikes, you know, freaking hunger, like famines and that are huge spikes. We haven't had any of that. I don't know the hell I was going with this conversation.
I'll jump back in and rein you back in here. Just reference me notes. So the big one, I suppose, really, like, and your Lewis is a good example of this. So he's at that age now where he'd have been at the back end of his university journey. Some of his mates are, as you said, and a double-edged problem that I've been ranting on about as well with university. Over the last couple of decades, what they've done is they've reduced the cost of entry, both academically and financially. So they've sort of offered different ways to pay and spread this, and easy to get your loans, and then there's a degree for fucking anything. You know, we've had ladies and gentlemen applying for the admin roles in the heating business, and they've got degrees for the most fucking obscure thing ever. Like, and you're like social studies. Like, what's the real world transferable value to that? In a working industry? You know what I mean? I'm not saying there isn't jobs there, but like, what's the potential? How, like, I think now I'm going off on a tangent. A lot of people get like try and fight to get into uni because it's deemed as the right thing to do, yet without really looking at the numbers in terms of actually, well, if I do a degree in this, what number of jobs are available in that sector once I've got this, and how many of them already have a degree or better? You know what I mean? There isn't that data looking exercise that carries out. But what's the crazy thing is, especially this is even more relevant to the lads younger than Lewis. Imagine he'd started at 14, then at 6, you know, doing the vocational stuff. Then at 16, he dove straight into an apprenticeship. He'd obviously finished his apprenticeship at 19, 20. He's then he's skilled, qualified. Potentially, he then gets a year spends a year building a business and scaling it. Potentially, he's earning 100 grand a year at 22 years old, 21, 22 years old, when his mates are walking out of university with a shit ton of debt.
Yeah.
Even if
and no life experience. Not forget. Let's even forget the money, right? Forget the money, right? You put, let's call them Dave and Steve, right? Steve is the tradesman, right? Steve's been in the van since he's 16 or now 14, like, you know, doing some vocational stuff. And Dave has been at school, sixth form and university. We fast forward till they're 21, right? Who is going to be the more rounded man? Who is going to have the life experience to make the right decision when a bad opportunity comes, or a situation with a partner or a friend? Who's going to be more rounded to make that judgment call? Who's going to be able to go and negotiate with that person when they're on holiday because they're used to speaking to people and they have that confidence? You know, the university guy that's lived as a kid, basically, come on, let's be honest, you know, most of them live like children until they leave. Or is it going to be the young lad that has had to work with the old lady with dementia, you know, had to go in the house that is an absolute shithole, but had to get the job done with the boss, you know, has had to help the old man put a shelf up because they're there doing a job and they've got the drill and they're like, this guy needs help, and actually seeing how some people live, seeing the good, going into these multi-million-pound houses in nice estates, going, the world out there that is like this, you know, compared to the guy that's living in university halls that's eating pot noodles or whatever, you know. Fuck me, forget the money. Just from a life, like, grounding point of view.
Because these real world skills,
national service, you know, and I know that's a complete tangent, but real world experience, isn't it?
These real world skills are sort of waning, aren't they? Because again, obviously, I said before about the last couple of decades, it's been easier for people to go to university. Had you been to university and got a job off the back of the degree, Lewis wouldn't have gone and become a gas engineer, would he? He'd have been much more inclined to follow the same pathway.
To follow the
so you know what I mean. So as a result,
only
for
one
that,
member of my family has been to university. Only one. Like the rest of us are, you know, like no one's ever been apart from one, and he did it.
It's it, man. That you're the opposite to me.
It's crazy. And the one that did it though weren't even close at the time. He had moved to Turkey, so like we didn't experience. I tell a complete lie. Sorry, my niece is at university now, so she's the second one. Sorry, so I did forget about my niece. She's currently at Bristol University. So, but apart from those, you know, the rest, there's no other university connection at all. You know, sorry if there is.
On my dad's side of the family, I think only two. So my sister and one of my cousins. The rest, and it's more lads than girls on that side, still in the UK anyway. Most ended up being tradesmen. Yeah. But especially one of my uncles had 3 lads. He is a tradesman or was a tradesman, so then they all became tradesmen. That's a good example of what I just referenced, I suppose, isn't it? It's not an effect. So what I was essentially, the point I was making with it is, what happens then is, as you've just said, there's an inherent lack of real world skills from, you know what I mean? If parents been to uni and then son or daughter then goes to university and lives that slightly more, like, you get a bit longer to grow up, let's say, don't you? As you were saying before, there's a bit more time spent in your room.
Child.
As opposed to, as you say, at 16, you're out in a van. You know what I mean? You cut into a pipe that's still live. You know, you got to think fast, whatever it might be. So those real world skills are very transferable just in life, whether it be confidence or how you handle like stressful situations. Very good point. That
I think that can be often overlooked as well in the sales pitch of the trades industry. You know, I think we're onto something there. I think we need to light this torch and fucking spread this message, because it's a really powerful and important, because we're all moaning about this younger generation. People aren't working hard. People aren't you know, are motivated. You know, you see the rates of depression and freaking anxieties and all of this stuff that's out in the world. Can a lot of it be fixed if you've just got real world experience? Is it because we're isolated so much in the modern world? Like I grew up, right, as a kid going to the pub because my dad went to the pub, right? So as a Sunday when my dad would have us, we would be in the pub. So we were socially, not the right socially, like, you know, weren't the best social environment, but we were in a social environment, as in we would speak to the men at the bar, we would speak to the ladies, we'd speak to the children that were there. Then as I got older, I went to the pub, you know, at 16, 17, 18. So I was constantly, and I was obviously working as a tradie, you know, so all of that, I was in the real world, wouldn't I? You compare that now to like a modern youngster, the parents aren't taking their kids to the pub because the parents aren't going to the pub. And I'm not saying the pub's the right place, but I'm just making the point. Then they're not going to the pubs because they're stuck in playing. We walked past the flat yesterday, right? We took our son to a football match. He supports the local team. And we drop him off, him and his mates are like the local little hooligan firm of 12-year-olds at this local football. And we walk past his flat and there's this full-on geezer, probably mid-30s, lying on his sofa in this ground floor flat, playing the Xbox. And it's like, wow, what a generation. You know, what a shift yeah, like there's just no, like, that's just, you're just living in that bubble. Yeah, he probably goes to work, you know, comes home, plays that, doesn't get out in the world, and frustrates me.
Yeah, because I think as well, a lot of the time, a lot of degree educated people, or the jobs that those people get, there's a lot of, like, there can be a lot of monotonous jobs that come off the back of that, a lot of repetition based stuff, as opposed to every day's different when you're a tradesman, even if it's,
that's what I love about it, you know. I don't like,
you know what I mean,
but
well, yeah, that's it, you know what I mean. No, you know, even if it's, for example, the same boiler, it's going to be in a different house in a different location on a different system, yada yada yada. So yeah, a little bit of a tangent. So yeah, to sort of get back on track, the one big thing for me is that it's always been, as you said before, sort of looked down upon. And part of the problem with that is it's never been viewed as sexy. So, like, you know, a lot of the time working with your hands now is not or hasn't been viewed as sexy. So I think one of the tasks that they'll have put on themselves as the government is to try and change that perspective of it. Without going on a massive tangent with this, the problem is masculinity nowadays is viewed as a problem, or it's pushed out to be a problem.
Yes. Yeah.
Yet tradesmen generally are more masculine than a lot of other roles, let's say, because you kind of have to be, you know what I mean? You kind of have to be, and it's sort of intrinsic, and you're doing dirtier work sometimes, and it's not a nice, clean, you know, suit type job. So there's a certain element of masculinity that comes with it. So it'd be interesting to see in this current weird time that we're in, of how that sort of transpires, so to speak.
No, you're definitely right. And, you know,
weird angle to view it on. It's just one of the things from obviously what you see in the world of today.
And on a complete tangent as well, talking, because you talked about masculinity, it's also going to be interesting to see how and what if there's a rise in women in the industry as well, because, you know, because of this incentive, because if they're going to be picking people out at school level to go into these more vocationally based programs, are girls going to get pulled out at the same rate that boys are for equality, you know, when in reality it shouldn't be on equality, it should be on personality, shouldn't it, or whatever? Like, it should be literally, if you are showing
equality is the most bullshit phrase ever.
Yeah, but you can imagine it though, can't you? You can already see it, that one school pulls out 50 boys, gets absolutely demonized. The next year they have to do 25 girls and 25 boys, and then pull out 25 girls just to be equal. You know, so it's going to be interesting to see how they basically what is going to be the determiner? You know, is it going to be equality, or is it going to be needs? You know, I really hope.
One thing I will say is, statistically, girls generally know what they want to do from a career perspective a little bit sooner, so it could actually be more favorable to them for actually knowing, because a lot of lads don't know what they want to do. Like, you know, even your Lewis, them.
I still don't know what I want to do, to be honest, when I grow up.
But yeah, that equality thing just pecks my head. It should never.
Yeah, but it's going to come.
Just like be better. You should never be like women are better at some stuff, men are better at other stuff. Like equals such a bullshit thing. Strive to be better at one thing. You know, it's going to be something different. Right, but just anyway.
Great. Talking of being better, right? If you have enjoyed any of our episodes that we have kindly put together for you guys that are listening, please can you leave us a review? You don't realize how much it actually helps us. Not only does it give us a pat on the back, you know, and everyone likes to be told that they're doing good work, it also helps with the algorithm. It tells Spotify, Apple, Amazon, whoever you're listening to with us on, it tells them that you're enjoying it. You know, leave a comment, share it, but more importantly, leave us a review, hopefully a 5-star one, but that's at your discretion. Any review is welcome. Please, can you take 2 minutes? It probably takes less than 2 minutes to do. It might be a bit fiddly to find. You know, I understand that it can be a bit of a pain in the arse, but it's also a pain in the arse to make sure we get an episode out every single week for you guys. So, you know, equal exchange if we can. A couple of minutes of your pain in the arse for a couple of minutes of our pain in the arse. It would be much appreciated. Any other closing words on this subject, mate?
Yeah, just on that point, obviously it helps with a bit of exposure for the podcast as well, which can then, one thing that we're looking to bring in a lot more, especially from later this year into next year, is more guests. So with, you know, I know a lot of you like to hear me and Wayne waffle and talk, but there's also guys from other industries and in the same industry that we can get on for you guys, but obviously we need a little bit of assistance with that. So yeah, my little take on that. So just on
that note, if you have someone that you think would be a great guest, you know, if it's a local person to you, if it's someone you've just got a connection with, get in touch with us. Let us know, man. Like I said, towards the back end of this year and into next year, guests are going to be a huge part of the show. So please recommend anybody, give us ideas, give us connections, you know, because it's hard to get people talking, people are busy. So yeah, that would be amazing. Right, you done, Andy?
Just one more point.
Always one more.
Interesting little question for anyone interested in obviously pondering over it, potentially getting in touch. Is knowing what you know, what would you encourage your own children to do? I think is a sort of a question that, you know, go away. There's a lot of guys that even in the industry, maybe if you'd have asked them, you know, a few months ago, they were like, oh no, I don't want, you know, I want something better for my kids than what I've got. But that's maybe just because they've not listened to the podcast enough, probably. But what I'm saying is there's still, even among tradesmen, there's still this mindset, and this generally comes from guys who perhaps tried to go to university but couldn't quite, you know, or had it in their heads that they were going to do that, but then when it was at that point they ended up doing an apprenticeship because they didn't do very well in school. Is just to have a little bit of a reframe, I think, and think, well, like, university is not, or a degree, having a degree is not what it used to be. It just isn't. And yeah, with the right guidance perhaps from a coach, you can create something very arguably safer than a career with a degree by having a trade, in my opinion.
That's a very powerful question to
subscribe and comment as well. Comment on that. But yeah, that's my closing words on it, mate.
Cool. Right, lads and ladies, God bless. See you on the next show.